You're listening to UnitedWeStrike.com radio on the International Community Radio Network. This is United We Strike Radio on the International Community Radio Network. Don't buy, don't comply, ask why. UnitedWeStrike.com radio.
And next up on the United We Strike Marathon for December 2013. I tell you, this year just seemed to go so darn fast. But we're going to get some insights from Dr. Dean Lloyd and Am Rosen. And if you'll stand by for just a moment, I'm going to bring them in now. Well, Dean, Am, I do believe I pushed all the right buttons, so you should have the floor at this point.
Well, thank you. Yes, it's a pleasure. Hi, everybody. My name is Am Rosen, philosopher, author, health consultant, and facilitator of the evolutionary unfoldment of human potential. All right, we only have a half an hour, so we want to bring some thoughts to your mind. You could kind of think of this as the United We Evolve portion of United We Strike. All right. On our last show that we do on Wolf Spirit Radio, Dean and I started a topic ahead into the future. And part one was realigning directions. We don't want to get back. That's like saying, okay, this stuff we're used to, the old-fashioned way, we want to somehow bring it and be able to place it in the future. To analogize, it's like trying to pour a new wine into an old skin. The enzymatic content of the new wine is too rich, it'll tear the skin apart. We want to move ahead into the future. And it's interesting listening to some of the wonderful participants on this show. I was listening to Dinah, of course. She was on before us. And many times I see intelligent people, thoughtful people, good people, wringing their hands. And, you know, this is so wrong, but they're doing it anyway. And then I hear, but you can see this logically, or these people can speak normally. How can it be like this? And one of the things that needs to happen right now, we need to stop fighting what doesn't work. You certainly have to pay attention to it and deal with it. But I like to put it, you're either going where you want to go, towards a more expansive, inclusive, integrated state of mind, or you're getting rid of what is in the way of that progress. Then there's nothing negative. Anything that seems to block you is your point of liberation. But to fight something, you have to stay fixated on it. I don't want to be dictated to. I don't want to be inadequate. I don't want to be miserable. I don't want to be threatened. What are you thinking about? All the things you don't want to be. And this polarizes you and makes you susceptible. Susceptible how? Well, let's look at our standards. You know, if we were visiting, a friend was hurt, they were put into an insane asylum for evaluation, we go to see them, and as we're walking down the hall, some person who's totally lost it, their eyes are askew, they're drooling, they come up and say, hey, I'm going to beat up the Martian invaders tonight after I have sex with the president. You say, of course you will. Okay, and I hope that works for you. But you're not going to take it seriously. They're obviously not able to think clearly, logically, coherently. But outside of such a gross standard, how do you tell what's the demarcation for where a person is at? If somebody comes up to you and says, you know, your skin is actually purple and green with pink polka dots, and you have propellers growing out of your head, your forehead, they're whirling around right now. Well, if the person telling you this, you might think they're drunk or crazy or kidding you for some reason. But if the person telling you this, what they're telling you bothers you, you have a problem. If they believe it, they have the problem. In other words, we get our buttons pushed all the time. When you talk about corporate structure, trying to push this around and that around, people don't understand what is actually going on. You know, what was that a line from an old Rolling Stone song? The gangster looks so frightening with a Luger in his hand, but when he comes home to the children, hey, he's a family man. Okay, how do you tell what's going on? And what all of us have to realize is that what is running the show right now is not our science. It's not our intellect. It's not our logic and reason. We use those to rationalize. What's been running the show, and right now continues to, are the irrationality of our subconscious feeling patterns. Now, up here on the intellectual level, we have logic, reason, analysis, deduction, proportion. And we can sit down, and when we're in a calm space, there's no pressure on us. Some of us can talk pretty rationally. But if you get too tired, too lonely, too horny, too frustrated, if you are thrown out of kilter, you just can't keep that level up, what takes over? We revert back to these irrational, primitive patterns that have us. Now, feelings are irrational once a pattern is set into place, and there are different levels of this. They're patterned from the genetic structure, that's physical survival, it's instinctual. They're conditioned by circumstance. They're programmed by social indoctrination, all of which for most people, no matter what they come to think about it or rationalize later, stays in place until you know how to release them permanently. And it's not that hard to do if you know what you're doing. But until then, feelings have only one criteria. Only one criteria. This is for you, for me, and for any person who's ever walked this planet. And that criteria is either I get what I was patterned, conditioned, or programmed to feel I should want. And if I get it, even if it's detrimental for me, even if it's destructive and stupid, if I get it, then I feel good. I approach it and I feel satisfied, righteous about it. Or I don't get what I was patterned, conditioned, or programmed to feel I should want. And if I don't get it, even if it would be better if I didn't get it, I feel guilty, in pain, ashamed, and I try to avoid it. Now, when you look at what's going on, the people who have developed the intellect, who have had the opportunities, who have enough discipline in one area or another to advance themselves, well, that's great. But when it comes to what they're going to do with it, it comes down to the feeling level. And right now, we are all struggling through this incredible discrepancy that's being exacerbated. It's being blown out of proportion between what we see we can achieve, what our intellects have developed, our technology, our science, and these primitive patterns. It has everybody going nuts. But the first step, if we really want to bring society into a new quality of interaction, the thing we've longed for, is that this place where you're susceptible, this place where they have stacks of behavioral papers on how people react and why, what the physiological responses are, you need to get control of that. You need to take your buttons, decondition them, put them back under your control. So if you want to let somebody play with your buttons, by all means. But you can always take them back, that nobody can play off of any of the insecurities that have been running rampant and rancidly through our species development. So in the first part of what Dean and I started on Wolf Spirit, we talked about realigning direction. Next month, we're going to talk about how to actually live a more satisfying life. Does that mean there isn't crap going on? Oh, you know, the short-sighted expedient compromises. We've swept so much dirt under the collective rug of compromise and avoidance, there's no more room, and it's coming out to choke us. But that feeling level says the only right is that I get what I want, and I want power and survival because I feel inadequate, and that's a basic instinct, says whatever I do, so what if there's collateral damage? The thing is, I have to maintain this. As long as they can push those buttons in you, you're susceptible. If they can't push the buttons, then you're going to start demanding, you're going to have a higher quality of life, more satisfying quality of life and health, and you're going to start demanding the things that work, not being so susceptible to being manipulated as most people are right now. Dean, please jump in.
Thank you, Am, and hello, everyone. This is Dr. Dean Lloyd, and I am also a practitioner, author, and philosopher, and we have our show, State of Mind Quality of Life, on the Wolf Spirit that Am was just mentioning. But I'd like to, in today's show, I'd like to reiterate what some of the points you were making and also bring it round to a qualified question. You make the point about science and intellect and reason. These are the things that are not running us, although we look to them so commonly. Oh, there'll always be another technology. There'll be something advances that'll take away cancer. Cancer has never been more prevalent. Our culture is lost. And we did a show on this very piece. Also, we did another show on how the body is affected on a hormonal level with something that people had never considered before on dental work. Boy, that's a pretty amazing thing. What's the future of a person that does not know the relationships of their biological dental work and these hormones? Another show we did on music therapy. All these are contributions. Our future depends on quality of our work. It's not going to be mired down by science. Science has been, unfortunately, put us in a position where we think we can explain everything through science. Science is a great tool, but it is not what should be ruling the show. What is it that makes us happy? And that's what Am and I talk about. And here's what I'd like to go with this. What you've talked about, Am, is this patterning that we've been exposed to, this survival mechanism that we have to, act a certain way or have a particular status in society. If we're to look into the future, and however you look at a future, whatever it looks like to you, maybe it's Star Trek, maybe it's the space age technology that takes us even further into space. But if you're talking about a future where we're satisfied, healthy, happy people, happy relationships, not being manipulated by whatever's going on in a political way or in a social way, we're the ones in the driver's seat. What does it look like to you if you're saying that this patterning is out, of the way, you can repattern yourself or see what's appropriate? What does it look like to you to have control of that? How do you do that?
All right, beautiful question, Dean. Oh, and by the way, the shows Dean were mentioning are on another show we do called Evolving the Species. We do a couple of different spaces. But coming back to your question, all right, think of how much energy and time you have wasted individually, we have wasted collectively, being uptight and trying to defend ourselves and justify ourselves. How that kind of inner disquiet, the fear, the doubt, the confusion, anxiety, guilt, and shame, which are primitive patterns. All they show you is you really don't understand. You're locked into a defensive position within yourself. Think of how much that has obscured the quality of your awareness, so that even when it's a nice day or a friend is there, it's hard for you to fully open up. You don't feel secure. You're too exhausted. How it's hurt the body. Because we talk about gut emotions. No matter what you think or what you try to avoid thinking about, everything you feel registers and creates tissue disposition. Think of all that energy that you've been wasting, we've been wasting, was returned to you. It's still the same world, same house, same car, same street, same people, but your way of interacting with them is different. You're more relaxed, you're more clear. You can see things more clearly. You are not jumping, you're not filtering everything through a defensive posture of trying to justify yourself. I'm okay. And of course, when you're telling that to yourself, I always ask people, which part of you is talking to what part? But think if you're not only wasting that, well, the world seems different. State of mind. Now think if you're not only not wasting that energy, but you are finding intelligent techniques, and I stress intelligent, things that are clear, logical, demonstratable, make sense. Because there's a lot of even good intention, though some of it isn't, huckstering going on out there. But if you're finding ways, techniques, all techniques are ways of focusing and concentrating to bring even more energy into your body and mind. It's still the same street, same sky, same circumstances, but your way of experiencing them changes. We have these patterns that are stuck in us on the subconscious level. They don't have to be subconscious. You wouldn't get up on a nice day, sun shining, food's in the refrigerator, rent's paid, nobody's trying to hurt you, and say, gee, what can I do with myself today? I will spend the day worrying myself, frustrating myself, picking on myself, doubting myself. You wouldn't choose it because it's counterproductive. But too often we do that to ourselves. So imagine. And I don't say imagine because, gee, it's off in some mystical wonderland. It's absolutely available to you right now. But imagine if you were no longer had to do that, that you could change the way you respond. Feelings are responses. And let's be clear about that. If somebody touches you on the shoulder, as an example, hopefully you find it pleasant and friendly, or you might find it hostile and repulsive. However you would respond to that touch would be how you feel about it. That feelings are how you are able to respond to whatever is stimulating you in the moment. That's it. But between not being able to respond to something, because you can feel so shut down, inhibited inside, no, I can't let myself go there, I can't let myself experience that, or you're totally open. You have a full range of motion. You can mix and match, use it or not use it anytime you please. Most people, though they're thinking the latter, are feeling the former. They are, against their reason, desire, and better judgment, turned against themselves. And this makes them susceptible to anybody that can find those buttons to push. But suppose the buttons are taken out. Suppose every time you find something that makes you uncomfortable, you can trace it down in your mind. And all healing is a process, whether it's physical, emotional, mental, or spiritual, of becoming conscious. When you're conscious of how the energies are arranged, how they work, how they process, you gain control over them. If you can trace it back down, see where you first locked in, which is in the very early stage of your development. Through the years, you've sophisticated it. You've overlaid it with ideas, with cultural ramifications, with circumstance, and all kinds of avoidance patterns you'd rather not remember. But if you can trace it down to when you first locked in, see it clearly, release it. In other words, there's only one of us inside of us, but some of the circuits became knotted and arrested before your intellect was developed enough or had the tools to where you could properly screen things. You could release that circuitry, then evaluate. Okay, I see what I've been doing. Now, how serviceable is this on a scale, let's say, of 1 to 10? Pretty good, just needs a few adjustments. It never worked for me at all. It's dragging me to the pits. It needs to bring this in. I've outgrown it. And then put in something that is more in keeping with your comfort level, your dynamic, so that the next time you are knocked off kilter by tiredness or circumstances, whatever, instead of reverting to the original pattern of response, you now revert to the newly refurbished one. And you keep changing it every time you get better insight and understanding until you have reached a comfort level. So how you want to be, what makes sense to you, is in keeping with your feelings, and your body is being moved along. Now, as I said, that's just the beginning step. But now nobody can push your buttons. If somebody says you're a goddamn uptight jerk, well, who knows what goddamned means? Who knows what uptight means? Who knows what jerk means? Yes, people, you get a lot of different definitions. But for you to deny it, and the problem is they don't have to say it to you, you might be saying it to yourself, you have to put labels on it, and then you fall into those places. But where is that coming from? Because you don't feel comfortable inside. It is time for humanity to kick off the primitive yoke of these Stone Age emotional patterns that we've been overlaying but never resolved, integrate them with our intelligence, and move on. Whether you're on the top of the food scale and you think you have control, or you're on the bottom and you're struggling through it. This is for everybody. That's just the beginning. Dean, please, jump in.
Yes, you brought up several points. One I'd like to focus on is when you mentioned which part of you is saying what to who. And the question comes up, did I experience what I thought I experienced? And when you stand under the experience, you understand it. That's what we're talking about in these shows. And of course, we love to talk. We got big mouths, both Am and I. And we'd like to give a lot of insight into the questions that really need to be asked by humanity at this time. And one of the big ones here is people are not asking themselves. They may come to me if they have a condition that is causing them pain, or they're not sleeping well, or they've been experiencing whatever condition that is causing them to focus on it all the time, right? They'll be depressed. They'll have this rash that overcomes them. Whatever it is that's taking them out, you have to deal with that. Whatever is in the way. This is what was talked about before. But what happens when you get past those? Let's say you get over a cold, okay, and you're ready to come back and bounce back, and you're back to your normal self. But what happens when you go to the healthier state of physical and mental state? What is it you want? How do you get what you want? What if I said to you, okay, I have this magic lamp, and you can have a wish. I'll rub it, and you'll get anything that you want. A boat, a new car, an attractive partner, anything that you want. Boom, it'll come into your being, into your world. Will that make you happy? Then what? In other words, what happens in people is they release their insecurities by saying that I would be happy only if. And we want to we're in the process of expanding right now, because we're approaching more people, and we're bringing this up, is that you don't have to be in that state that says, I'm not going to get what I want, but I'm going to keep at it anyway. I'm gonna get it. I'm gonna get it. But what's telling you to get what you want? What is it that's driving the energy? What is it that's motivating you? Am just opened a significant block, and you mentioned this about old patterned responses. Have you looked at why you respond in a certain way that makes you feel uncomfortable? And that's a question to everybody. We're all in that state where if something comes up and makes us uncomfortable, why are we uncomfortable? What happens when I don't feel that my response is wrong? It's got to be this way. I got to have it. You're justifying the feelings, and what we want to do is give you the tools that can help you see it in yourself, so you don't get sucked in and drawn into those patterns that have taken you out. In other words, out of power, out of choice, out of being reasonable. And you don't even, a lot of times, most of the time in fact, people aren't even aware that they're doing it. So Anne, please pick it up from there.
Yes, nice, Dean. All right, we're talking about a very ultra-sophisticated, very elegant game. I like to call it the game of life, the life game. Half of the game involves energy, how much you can access, what's available to you, what it opens up to you. The other half of the game evolves consciousness, because everybody's seeking power. The basic, what power is it's energy that's been harnessed. It's been given a conscious direction. Geothermally, it might be the movement of the air currents or the ocean tides that are moving the energy. It might be a mathematical equation that allows you to bring energies to bear, or a piece of machinery. In yourself, it's your very own consciousness. Dean asks, what would it be like? Well, it's hard because people right now are confusing the absence of pain with pleasure. God, I don't want to be hurt. I don't want to feel unloved. I don't want to feel physically sick or threatened. I don't want to feel that my livelihood can be taken away. I don't want to feel that somebody could dictate to me. I want to get away from that. Oh, phew. I found a means. Some people try to become comfortably numb, and that's an oxymoron in itself. You're not comfortable when you're numb. You're just numb. But getting away from pain, the absence of pleasure, it feels better. Oh, thank God, I couldn't take it anymore. Oh, what a relief. But that's not pleasure. Pleasure is not moving away from something you don't like. You certainly want to understand these things. They're just defended misunderstandings on whatever level. Pleasure is moving delightfully. You're drawn, yippee-ki-yay, let's up the ante, towards a more expansive, inclusive, integrated state of mind, whatever you're coming from, whatever the consideration. And that is a whole different movement. Pain shuts you down. Pain, whether it's physical or emotional, it makes you contract. It's a block. It's always a block flow of energy, physically or emotionally in the psyche. It accumulates toxic debris. It deprives you of the nourishment of the moment, and it wears you down prematurely, so that everything becomes an effort and a struggle.
Hey, Dean, I'm going to have to give you the 2-minute warning.
That 2-minute warning.
Yeah,
okay.
and remind you.
Pleasure opens you up. Pleasure is what guides you to health on every
I got to remind you, don't forget that blatant self-promotion. Tell people where they can find you.
Thank you, good sir. All right. Well, my website is www.lifegame, LIFEGAME.com. There's a lot of things on there to explore. If you like some excerpts of my most recent literary efforts, there's a podcast library, but I'm having a technical glitch that should be restored in a week or so. But there's a lot of things. You'll also find the Geigers that you might have heard me mention. You'll find a process I would like to make available to people because it really can change you. We love questions. There's also connective links to Evolving the Species, which we do on the GNC network, and State of Mind, Quality of Life we do on Wolf Spirit. Dean, take it away.
Yeah, just one little correction. GCN.
GCN, thank you, sir. Thank you.
It's fine. And yes, my website is acutone.com, ACUTONE.com. And you'll find that the shows are also archived there. It's on YouTube. We have them where they're commercial free. Yay, that's a good thing. And you also have access, if you want to, get a hold of us. You can write your questions in. We are talking like you've never heard before. I know it's a bold statement. I don't want to have, questions out there where people aren't able to get access to us to ask these. So you just email us. It's an easy thing to do. You just go to our websites, respective websites, you get a hold of us, write your questions, and we have our shows on the future. We have it on higher levels of health. We do, like I said, the hormones. We talk about things that doctors should be talking about, but they haven't been, and we are here for that. So please ask us your questions. We love it, and thank you, Garrett, for doing your wonderful button.
Yes, and one last quick thought, everybody. Happy holidays to you. Celebration is good for the heart, good for the mind, good for the body. So enjoy it. It's recognizing that in the midst of the darkness, the light enters to blossom again in the forthcoming spring. Happy holidays, a wonderful new year to you.
Ho, ho, everybody.
That's an excellent message. Thank you both so much. We really do appreciate your participation in the United We Strike Marathon. And I'll take us out with a little music, and here we go.
This is United We Strike Radio on the International Community Radio Network. Don't buy, don't comply, ask why. UnitedWeStrike.com radio.